Okay, I'm introducing Brian Conway, the Irish fiddler, and people accompanying him, and sorry for the wait, but it's going to be worthwhile. So sit back and enjoy.
Thank you so much. I hope it's worth your while. Thank you. We had a wonderful evening. Isn't it great to be back in having live music and being with everybody outside like this? Well, we'll start with a set of jigs that we always love to start with. The first one's called the Old Grey Goose, and the second one is called Rosewood. Thank you. You're all very far away. Did they set up a perimeter or something where you weren't allowed to be in the front row? It reminds me of my childhood going to Mass. Everyone wanted to be far from the front. It's great to see you all. So those were 2 jigs. We'll continue with a set of reels. What did I write down here? A tune called Dr. Gilbert's, and then another one called The Queen of May. And then we'll go into a third one called Dylan Brown. Should we try to keep getting it to work on the other? All right, thanks. That's my nephew, Kieran Flanagan. He's an All-Ireland keyboard player. It's unfortunate that you may not be able to hear him tonight, but he's trying to get this thing working. All right, so we'll try these 3 reels, Dr. Gilbert's Queen of May and Dylan Brown. So you come in on Dylan Brown's. And the last set is Martin Wins. That's what we decided. Yeah. right. Can you hear me okay? So that was Arjun Ramachandran, all the way from Baltimore, Maryland. Give him a big round of applause. So I'm going to just say Arjun from now on, but Arjun is one of my top young fiddle students, and he's going to be playing some fiddle in a little bit. And his mom is there. Wave. Mom is sitting down, Candace, and they drove all the way up from Baltimore to join us in this concert. So give them another big round of applause. So you may wonder, how does he take lessons every week if he's in Baltimore? I'm up in White Plains. Well, we do it mostly on the internet, but he augments his virtual lessons by coming up frequently. And I have a bunch of students down there in Maryland, in Bethesda mostly, but Arjun's up in Baltimore. All right, so we'll continue with a set of, what do I have here? Set of hornpipes. I can't read my friend's wonderful handwriting. It's way better than mine. I'm used to reading sloppy handwriting. So these are two hornpipes, Tom Graney's Castle. And for years I thought it was called Tom Graney's Castle, but it's Tom Graney's, which is Tom Graney. It's a town in Clare, and there's a castle apparently there. And then we'll do a tune called The Plains of Boyle, another hornpipe. Thank you. So those of you wondering why somebody who has a Bronx accent and is clearly American is playing Irish music, well, my parents are both from Ireland. Both of them immigrated from County Tyrone, and my father played the fiddle. Loved Irish music, loved the fiddle, and he was one of the better fiddle players in his neck of the woods up in Tyrone. He was from Plum Bridge. But he played in a style that was reminiscent of American fiddling. He held the fiddle down here like this. And that's where, if you watch a lot of old-timey American music, that's how they hold the fiddle, right down here. And he played in a sort of hybrid Irish-Scottish style, and he was very good at it. But when he was a young man, he started listening to traditional Irish music that was being played over the radio in Ireland of musicians who had emigrated from Ireland to New York, most notably Michael Coleman and James Morrison, two great Sligo-style fiddle players. So they were from County Sligo, which was less than 100 miles away from where my father was living, but a completely or very different style of fiddle playing. And my father fell in love with it and wanted to play just like those Sligo-style fiddle players. But I'll play you a little bit of a tune that I used to hear him play all the time in the house. I won't hold the fiddle the way he did because I think I would mess it up. But this is a tune called The Soldier's Joy, which arguably may be the oldest fiddle tune known to man right now. Whenever I get together with fiddle players from other genres, say an American fiddle player, maybe a bluegrass fiddle player, maybe a Scottish player, we can always settle when we come together to play at the end of the concert on a tune, and it's always The Soldier's Joy. And I learned that it dates back 800 years ago to Norway, believe it or not. So this is a tune called The Soldier's Joy. Any progress? It's a cute little tune. If we can get Kate to come back over to this side of the stage, that'd be great. I'm going to play a slow air now. When I was growing up, all I wanted to do was play these fast tunes, the reels, jigs, and hornpipes. And by the way, we started out with a jig, and then we did a reel, and then a hornpipe. Those are the three main Irish dance types. And what I'm playing mostly is Irish dance music. It's sort of evolved over the years to listening music, to parlor music, it's sometimes called, concert music. And it no longer relies on having to have dancers to play to, although it's always fun to play for great dancers like Arjun. But I also started, as I grew older, fell in love with another kind of art form that's very distinctly Irish, and that's the slow air. And most slow airs, or many of them are they say songs without words. They're beautiful old tunes. Most of them are very sad. Often they're called laments, and they kind of depict the mood of the times. And there's an air that I like to play called The Lament for Staker Wallace, and it's a slow air. Actually, I won't play that one. I'll play one called Were You at the Rock? And the rock is the Mass rock. And in penal times in Ireland, they used to get together to have Mass clandestinely because the Catholic faith was outlawed, and they would have Mass in fields, and the altar would be these large rocks. Even today, if you drive down the west of Ireland, you'll see signs pointing to the Mass rock. And this is a very, very sad air. If you're not all very depressed when I'm done, then I failed miserably. So we'll give it a try. Now, I asked Kate to come up because I wanted to coordinate with Arjun what he's going to play. So we didn't work it out because we were so distracted, but we're doing Fermoy Lassies and take a second one. Kate. Thank you. Then a beautiful air. It's supposedly a coded message, relaying whether there would be a church or a mass, and it's a love song, but it's really a coded message, saying there'll be basically it was written in the Irish language, which I cannot speak, nor would I dare to try to do that. But you can feel the mood of the times. It's very, very sad. Let me see what else we have in store now here. Okay, I'm going to play an O'Carolan tune for you now. So, on the island of Ireland, there is another very unique tradition. I've been playing tunes that are traditional Irish tunes, not the kind of stuff you hear on St. Patrick's Day, but the dance music. But there's also beautiful, elegant kind of music that evolved, that was exclusively harp music. And the most well-known of the exponents of the harp music was a fellow by the name of Turlough O'Carolan, who lived in the 1700s. And according to a biography of his that I read, he was blinded by smallpox when he was 19 and had to learn. He taught himself how to play the harp, and then went around Ireland playing for the big houses, the landed aristocracy, the landowners, the Anglo-English, or the Anglo-Irish, I should say. And he would go from home to home, and when he was done staying with one place, he would write a beautiful piece of music in honor of his patrons, and then he'd move on to the next place. And his music has sort of a classical tinge to it, and that's not an accident or a coincidence. It's because he was surrounded by the music of continental Europe. The modern music of that time was Baroque music. And so you can hear a little bit of that in his music. And one particular tune that I love is Madame Maxwell, which he wrote in honor of one of the patrons whose name was Maxwell. He composed hundreds of these tunes. And see if you agree with me that although it does sound Irish, it also kind of sounds classical. And I'll go into a jig that he wrote called, I'll think of the name of it in a moment. It'll come to me when I'm done. What's the name of the jig? Can't think of it either? So Kate Sandstrom there told me the name of it. Charles O'Connor is the name of that jig, another one of O'Carolyn's patrons. So we're going to have Arjun come out now and dance a jig. Okay. So you notice that Arjun has hard shoes. He's going to dance a hard shoe jig, which is a very different tempo than the jig I just played, the O'Carolyn tune, and the first jig that I played. And it's a much more intricate dance that he's going to do, so we slow down the tempo so you can fit in all these beautiful trebles, they call them. Right? That's what they're called when you're dancing, right? All right? So it's a jig. It's a jig. You're going to dance a jig, and then, all right. Arjun. So Arjun's going to play a bunch of fiddle, but I'm going to let him catch his breath before I have him up to play a duet with me. So while Arjun is catching his breath, I'm going to play a waltz that I only recently learned called the Diamond. And I learned this waltz from a friend who composed it, Billy McComiskey, who originally is from Brooklyn, but is actually practically a neighbor of Arjun's down in Baltimore. It's a beautiful story, which I'm sure I will destroy, but basically, a young man had come to him and asked him to compose a waltz for him for his wedding. And then he told him the story about how he came to possess the diamond that was in his wedding ring, and the name of the waltz is the Diamond. After that diamond, his mother, or his grandmother, fled Europe just before the Nazis started the Holocaust. And she left her home in Germany, but before she did, she left with nothing. But she did bury 2 diamonds in her backyard, deep in the ground. And when World War II was over, she went back and she was able to go back to her home. And she was able to find these 2 diamonds, and one of them, and she brought them to America, and one of them was the diamond that was contained in the wedding ring. So that's sort of the story behind that, the engagement ring. It's a beautiful waltz. Now I hope I can remember it. Thank you. So I'm going to ask Arjun to come back up and join me in a duet. While Arjun is coming up on stage, tell you a little bit more about how I then proceeded to learn the fiddle. So my father and mother, when I was 10, told me that I was going to have to start learning the fiddle. There was no discussion involved. It was just, you're going to learn the fiddle. And had I not taken to it, I suppose they wouldn't have tortured me, but I had tried the dancing a few years earlier, and that was a no-go. I don't know if I ever told you that. Did I ever tell you that, Arjun? Yeah? So that microphone is really far away from you. You're going to have to move it a little bit. Yeah. So when I was 10, I started taking lessons from Martin Mulvihill, a wonderful fiddle player from Kerry. He was teaching a massive school in the Bronx, and a very lovely man. Taught a lot of wonderful musicians over the years. And when I was playing for about 4 months, I sort of got the bug, and I just couldn't put it down. And I went to a fesh to listen to the great Andy McGann, whose teacher was Michael Coleman. You heard me mention Michael Coleman earlier? Well, Andy McGann was American-born and learned from Coleman. And at the end of the day, my father asked me to play a tune for Andy McGann, and I played a reel called The Mountain Road. And Andy, being a gentleman, and also having a man of very few words, struggled to say something nice about my playing. And he finally said, kind of looked up and said, well, he plays in tune, which I thought was a wonderful compliment. And so we're walking away, my father said, well, I said to my father, Dad, did you hear that? He said, I play in tune. How great is that? And my father said, well, what he meant to tell you is that you're not bowing right. We're going to have to call Martin Wynn. So I don't know how my father got that out of he plays in tune, but sure enough, we located Martin Wynn, who was an old friend of my father's, who had sort of gone into seclusion, sort of self-imposed. He'd become a recluse. And I'll tell you about how I started out with lessons with Martin after these tunes. But we have some of Martin's nephews and maybe nieces here. Where are you all? Let's hear a big round of applause from the Wynn section. Look at them all. So how great is that? I ran into them all when I was playing either here before, but I think it was actually Greenwood Lakes Library was the first time that you all came to that. So, all right, so Arjun, what are we playing?
We're playing for the Fermoy Lassies and the Scholar. We're playing the Fermoy Lassies and the Scholar.
All right, so if you didn't hear it the first time, you heard it the second. So Fermoy Lassies, a beautiful tune that I learned from Martin Wynn. And then the Scholar is a tune that Arjun just learned, and he played it for me today, and I thought it sounded so great that I said we would play this together later. In fact, he played the Fermoy Lassies for me as well, right? Arjun. Awesome. Awesome. We'll have Arjun back in a little while to be sure. I'm going to invite Kate Sandstrom up here now. So Kate's going to help me out on a song called The Mountains of Pomeroy. And when I was first starting out, I ran into a roadblock on an early tune that I was learning. And my father was the fiddle player in the family, but I wasn't taking to the reading the sheet music. I was trying to do everything by ear. And I had this tune called The Mountains of Pomeroy that Martin Mulvihill gave me. And it was giving me fits. And my mother took the violin and started reading The Mountains of Pomeroy off the sheet music. And I had no idea that my mother knew how to play the violin, but she had studied as a child a more formal education on the violin than my father had. And she was able to read the music and make sense of it for me. And if she hadn't helped me in that spot in the tune, I don't know if I would have continued. It was very frustrating. Like I said, I was only 10. But she always loved these slow pieces and would always chastise me after a concert that I played too many of those fast tunes. So I'm going to play this for my mother, who's not here, but hopefully she's listening right now, The Mountains of Pomeroy. And I did this with Kate last week, and she did a beautiful job playing some harmony with me. No pressure whatsoever. Let me just introduce Kate, first of all. Kate was here with me the last time I played here. I think we played inside. I played here numerous times, and I played out here under the tent, but there was a year that we played inside. It might have been inclement weather. How many of you were here for that? We played in the town hall meeting place, right? So Kate came and played with me then, and I'm very grateful that she was able to make it here again today. She's now she's blossomed into a wonderful fiddle player and a wonderful fiddle teacher. She teaches my niece and nephew, God help her, how to play the violin, and she's also helped out with the sound and everything. She's invaluable. All right, here we go with The Mountains of Pomeroy. What are we going to play next? Tell them, not me, I know. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to play a couple reels. The first one is called Pigeon on the Gate, and the next one is The Trip to Duro.
Okay, Pigeon on the Gate and Trip to Duro. We tune because we care. Thank you. I'm going to have Arjun back up. While Arjun is... No, you can stay, Kate. I'm going to ask Kate to stay for the rest of the concert and help me out here. So while Arjun is getting settled in there, I'll tell you a little bit more about my Martin Wynn story. So we found Martin Wynn. He was living on Jerome Avenue, or just off Jerome Avenue in the Kingsbridge section of the Bronx. Wasn't too hard to find. And my father must have spoken to him about my bowing issues, because in the mail arrived this bowing exercise pattern that he had mapped out for me to work on before I ever met him. So on the first day that we're driving to meet Martin in his apartment on just off Jerome Avenue, my father decides to tell me about how he came to know Martin. So I told you my father immigrated to the United States in the late 1940s. He ended up living in New York in the 50s at St. Anne's Parish down in the South Bronx. And a lot of Irish were living in the same sort of an area, and Martin Wynn was one of them that my father made acquaintances with. And they came to know each other. They talked about the fact that they each played the fiddle, and my father thought highly of his own playing and decided to play some tunes for Martin one day. And then Martin, in turn, played something for my father, and my father was mortified that he had played for Martin. The music coming out of Martin's fiddle was the music that my father had heard coming out of the radio from America, that beautiful Sligo style playing, that elegant Sligo style. And it was no coincidence Martin Wynn studied under the same person that Michael Coleman studied under, this fellow by the name of Fiddle Byrne. So my father then went on to tell us, and my brother was with me in the car at the time, and I think he told me this next part of the story to make sure that I took Martin seriously. He said, I tried to take some lessons from Martin, and after 4 or 5 lessons, Martin sat me down and said, "You're not responding, Jim." And that was the end of that. So I thought, my God, this man, Martin Wynn, must be a real ogre, a real mean person, and nothing could be further from the truth. As his nephews and nieces will attest to, he was as saintly a human being as you could possibly meet, kind, patient, and he put up with a lot of questions from me over the years, and we became great friends. His lessons with me were not formal lessons at all. They were him coming over to the house every Friday night, having dinner with us, and then we would play and talk about music until the wee hours, and that went on for years and years and years. Okay, so with that, what are we playing, Arjun? Well, okay, so we're going to play 3 jigs. The first one's a tune called The Haunted House, which was written by a fellow by the name of Vincent Broderick from Galway, I believe, flute player who composed many beautiful tunes. And the second one is a tune called The Apples in Winter, which was recorded by Coleman. And then another tune after that, The Mooncoin, which was recorded by Andy McGann. All right, so we'll give these a try. You two want to start it and then I'll come in? Yes? No? So I think we're at near the end of tonight's concert. Thank you so much for coming out today. And Peggy, thank you for inviting me back. Sorry for the delay in starting things out, but hopefully you have the power situation now worked out for the rest of the concerts. Thanks to the West Milford Township Library for having us here, for the Friends of the Library. Thank you for what you do. We'll finish with a set of reels, and two of these were tunes that were composed by Martin Wynn, and they're called Martin Wynn's Number 1 and Martin Wynn's Number 2. He wasn't great with coming up with fancy titles for his tunes, but he was brilliant. He was a brilliant composer and a brilliant man, by the way, really a genius, not an exaggeration. Tried to teach me calculus in college, and it just was lost on me. Self-taught in Latin, and very well read. And then we'll do a reel after that. Arjun, we're not going to go with the soft shoes for these, for the reel? No? Okay. And Arjun is going to put his stage back up because he's going to finish out the concert with a reel. So the third reel we'll play will be a tune, The Cup of Tea. So thank you again, everybody. Thank you. So we'll do the number 1 first. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the concerts this summer. Hopefully we'll see you again next year. Thank you.